Someone is crazy about you, but this relationship is forbidden. And this means one thing. You feel it in the little things. A message that arrives at the exact moment you need it. A laugh that lingers longer than polite conversation. A hand that brushes yours by accident and somehow never quite stops trembling afterward. Someone watches you like they're memorizing the shape of you, not because they want to own you, but because they are trying to hold you safe inside their chest. But there's a line, an invisible absolute border, a truth that snaps every tender moment back into place. This cannot be. The relationship is forbidden. If you have ever felt the ache of being loved in secret, this is for you. If you have ever been haunted by the thought, they're crazy about me, and yet they keep away, listen, because there is one thing behind all of it, and once you understand it, the chaos inside you begins to make sense. Subscribe now to Psych Secrets and be part of a journey where every video inspires you to see life with a new perspective. Part 1: The Quiet Evidence. First, let's name what you're feeling. It's quieter than fireworks, but heavier than a compliment. It's not the loud, flashy love stories movies promise. It is a vascular, patient devotion that shows up as 1,000 small attentions. Remembering the exact way you like your tea, saving the last train home details in their mind. A text in the morning that says nothing more than breathe. Eyes that catalog your sorrow and your small joys with the same reverence. Defenses that rise when others speak ill of you, even in places where they do not speak at all. A private dictionary made of inside jokes, but one that is careful, never pushing too far, never risking the light in their world. You will notice the contradictions. Their voice softens when you enter a room and sharpens when anyone asks about you. They will be present and absent in the same breath. A laugh that brightens the day, a shadow that leaves at dusk. These are the fingerprints of someone who is not simply interested. They are consumed. They map your contours like cartographers of the heart. They become architects of possibility and simultaneously curators of restraint. But why the restraint? Why does affection sit patiently behind a locked door? Part 2: The Reasons the World Says Forbidden. There are so many ways a relationship becomes forbidden. Sometimes the reasons are social, sometimes legal, sometimes moral, and sometimes heartbreakingly practical. Here are the shapes that prohibition can take. Marriage promises already spoken. They could be bound by a vow that is not theirs to dissolve. Power or safety imbalance. A boss with a crush, a mentor with influence, a connection that risks the security of one or both of you. Family or cultural constraints. Loyalties, honor, expectations that would fracture worlds if crossed. Danger. A relationship that would place you in harm's path. Danger from other people, from legal consequences, from reputations weaponized. Self-preservation. They have demons, addiction, instability, enemies, and they choose to keep you away for your protection. Timing and life seasons. One of you may be leaving, deployed, or caretaking. The timing makes a bond impossible without cruelty. All of these carve the same wound. They strip the moment of its ordinary language and force it into silence. And silence, in this context, is not indifference. Silence becomes a way of protecting both the loved one and the love itself. Part 3: The Inner Landscape, What It Does to Them. Imagine a room where a person keeps a candle burning every night. They cannot carry it to your house. The shelves would topple, the wind outside would blow. So they wait. They nurse the flame. Their life becomes a series of small sacrificial rituals. Turning down an invitation where you will be. Reading your favorite books so they can understand you better. Learning the names of the streets you grew up on so they can know what shaped you. This is not cowardice. This is austerity. Here's what goes on inside a person who loves you but pulls away. Shame and responsibility. They carry guilt not always because they did something wrong, but because their presence could be wrong for you. With that guilt comes responsibility. A vow to choose your well-being over their desire. Fear of corrupting what's pure. Sometimes affection feels like a poison in a fragile place. They fear that the sweetness of loving you would sour into possession. So they keep it raw and secret rather than diluted and public. Protective sacrifice. They calculate what their closeness would cost you, career, family, safety, and they decide the price is too high. They sacrifice themselves to secure your future. Self-discipline. Some people love like anchor weights. They hold themselves back because they believe the only way to respect you is to remain distant. This is where the story becomes both tragic and holy. Tragic because something bright is being withheld. Holy because the withholding is itself a form of love. A love that says, I want you to be free, even if it means I must be lonely. Part 4. The one thing. Now I will tell you the single thing this all means. Not a dozen. It means, they love you enough to put your well-being above their own desire. Repeat that line slowly. Let it sit. They love you enough to put your well-being above their own desire. Everything else unfurls from there. The secrecy, the restraint, the small kindnesses disguised as distance. They are different faces of that selfish sparing decision. To love you with restraint means they are choosing to be the guardian of your life instead of the pursuer of their wants. This is the paradox of forbidden love. The deepest love often looks like renunciation. The bravest hearts do not always step forward. Sometimes they step back, deliberately, painfully, with the steady rhythm of someone who truly understands the stakes. Part 5. Stories within a story. Scenes for the heart. Let me show you what this looks like in 3 small scenes. Scene A, the morning note. You find a sticky note on your mirror. It's not signed. It says, there's a stall at the market with your favorite mangoes today. I bought you 2 because I remembered the way you smiled last summer. You think, who? But you do not know it was them. They're watching you smile from the cafe across the street, sipping coffee and pretending to read the paper. They leave because someone walks in they cannot face. Their love keeps them seated in anonymity. Scene B. The phone you don't return. You post a photo of a window from the place you grew up. A quiet person who knows every story of that window, reads the comments but does not reply. Later, you learn they removed their name from a list of attendees because being there would have risked a scandal. They text a string of ellipses, then delete it. They say nothing. In private, they ache. Scene C. The rescue that wasn't seen. There is a moment when the edges of your world fray. A family fight, a job lost, a late-night lie that lands you in trouble. A hand appears in the crowd, arranging a lifeline from afar. Money wired without a message. A friend called who offers a job. A letter sent to someone who can help. You never meet the hand. Sometimes you never know the face behind the kindness. But the kindness is there. This is love that does its work like a seamstress. Invisible stitches that hold you together. These scenes are not cinematic spectacle. They are quiet and they are true. They are the language of someone who cannot love you openly but will move mountains to keep you whole. Part 6. How to read their actions. For you. If you're on the receiving end and your chest keeps waking in the night, here are how to translate the signs. With tenderness and without cruelty. Presence without possession. They show up in ways that respect your boundaries. They celebrate your wins anonymously. They defend you when you are not looking. Understand that presence without possession is often the purest form of respect. Consistent smallness. Flashy gestures are missing, but small consistent care is abundant. Consistency matters more than grand proclamations. Protective absence. If their absence is because they fear harming you, ask yourself, do you want someone who will risk everything for you, or someone who will hold you safe by stepping back? There is nobility in both choices. The difference is whether both of you share the same moral geography. Boundaries as a bargaining chip. If they are pushing you away, it could mean they are testing whether you can stay when things are hard, or it could mean they have chosen to keep you from harm. Observe which. Honesty within secrecy. Notice whether their secret-keeping is honest. Do they tell partial truths? Do they refuse to manipulate circumstances? If yes, respect that. If not, be cautious. You are allowed to feel confused. You are allowed to hurt. But please do not conflate their silence with indifference. Complexity is not cruelty. Part 7. What you owe them and what they owe you. Love, even when forbidden, creates ethical obligations. There are things you can and should do if you know someone loves you but keeps their distance. For you, recognize the sacrifice. See the ways they protect you and thank them in ways that do not expose them. Gratitude is not a public display. It is a private altar. Do not punish them for their restraint. It is tempting to demand an explanation until they fold. But remember, they chose your safety. Ask with curiosity, not with accusation. Decide with your whole heart. If you want to cross the border, make the choice with eyes open. Understand the cost, to them, to you, and to the structures that made the love forbidden. Never force someone into sacrifice as proof of love. Be gentle with yourself. Forbidden love can feel like a wound. Give yourself time to think, to grieve, or to step forward if that's safe and mutual. For them, honesty is mercy. If their secrecy is protective, they should still be honest about the constraints that keep them away. A clear, compassionate boundary is a gift. Avoid deception. If they are creating a double life that will eventually harm you, their secrecy is not protection. It is betrayal. Protecting you should not include lying about the truth that will hurt more later. Respect your agency. If you make a choice to cross into a forbidden space, they must not coerce you. Love that asks you to sacrifice your values or safety is not love. It's a theft. Part 8: The Spiritual Arc. There is a spiritual lesson here, subtle and fierce. Love that refuses to possess is a teacher. It speaks in the grammar of sacrifice and liberation. If I have to choose between being with you and making you safe, I will choose your safety. That is love learning to be less about hunger and more about care. When someone loves you enough to step back, they are practicing a kind of spiritual restraint. They refuse to turn a human into a project. They refuse to make you a means to their end. And in that refusal, there is a holiness. You will learn to love differently when you meet someone like this. You will measure love not by the intensity of the pursuit, but by the quality of the choices. Love becomes not a fever but a commitment to the beloved's flourishing. Part 9: If you are that person who holds back, maybe you are the one who loves from a distance. If so, this is for your heart. First, notice the courage it takes to hold yourself accountable. Choosing someone else's well-being over your immediate longing is an act of moral bravery. But also ask yourself, is your restraint protecting someone or protecting your fear? Are you withholding because you think you will corrupt them or because you are afraid of being vulnerable? Is there a safer, more honest way to express care without trespassing their life? Sometimes boundaries can be kept without secrecy. Sometimes secrets are necessary. Distinguish. Find a place to put that love that is not crushing. Journals. Small acts of service that do not risk the other. Prayer, meditation, therapy. Spaces where your affection can grow into wisdom rather than into a boulder that rolls downhill. And if you can ever offer the truth without harming the person, the truth offered with care is also love. But be ready for consequences. Love given in honesty may not always be received in the way you imagine. That is part of the risk of freedom. Part 10: The ending is not always a closure. Forbidden relationships rarely end neatly. They hang like a melody that returns to the chorus, sometimes quiet, sometimes piercing. But endings are not the only resolution we can seek. There are other ways to honor this strange allegiance. Transform love into blessing. Bless the person you love in silence. Bless the part of them that you cannot possess. This is a radical act of letting go. Channel tenderness outward. Use the energy of that love to be kinder in the world. To strangers, to friends, to yourself. Let it teach you how to care without consuming. Hold both grief and gratitude. You can be grief-stricken and grateful at once. Grief acknowledges what you lost. Gratitude honors what you were given. And sometimes the forbidden becomes allowed. Time shifts boundaries. People change. Circumstances that were immovable move. But do not build your life on the hope of that movement alone. Live fully, love responsibly, and keep your dignity. Part 11: Final words. If someone is crazy about you but keeps the distance that breaks your breath, know this: their restraint is a strange, solemn kind of devotion. It means they love you deeply, sometimes more deeply than a person who would indiscriminately claim you. Your heart will want an explanation. Your mind will assemble reasons. But the core truth is simple and profound. They choose your safety and flourishing over their immediate hunger. That choice is a mirror. It asks you, What would you do if you loved someone enough to choose them over your desire? Would you protect them? Would you speak the truth with gentleness? Would you accept a love that is beautiful and incomplete? Love, in its most honest form, is never only about possession. It is about stewardship. It is about the readiness to sacrifice what we want for what is right. If someone shows you that kind of love, even from behind a glass wall of prohibition, hold that mirror gently. Learn from it. Let it teach you how to love better, whether or not you are ever allowed to be together. If this resonated with you, if you know this ache or this devotion, hold it with tenderness. And remember, sometimes the bravest thing anyone can do is love quietly enough to let the other person breathe. Subscribe now to Psych Secrets and be part of a journey where every video inspires you to see life with a new perspective.